U.S. men's national team job is open. They're looking at candidates. They're looking at the previous coach, Greg Berhalter, to remain in this position. But there's no sporting director. There's no general manager of the U.S. men's national team. It's pretty wide open. There's a lot of spots to fill on the men's side over here in U.S. soccer. Jesse Marsch, when I went over there, by the way, because you referenced it a little bit earlier, Chuck, when I went over there, they had just beaten Chelsea. I went like the peak part of the season. Everybody was in a great mood. Everybody was high-fiving and giving hugs and all kinds of stuff.
They let you right in. Yeah, they let you right in.
They're like, you want to come to training? Come to training. You want to sit in the video meeting? I'm like, yes. Come sit in the video meeting. You want to meet everybody and high five? I was like, yes, I want to do all that. I want to go to training. I want to see all that. It was amazing. It was awesome. And I can't thank Jesse and the staff and all the players for accommodating me in that way. And then I got to go to their cup game, which they won 3-1. That was probably the best week to be there. And when I spoke to Jesse afterwards, just peppered him with questions about why he did certain things at training, what he was working on, and kind of learning the coaching side of things and preparation and his methodology more upfront and personal. I said, oh, hey, by the way, you want to take the U.S. men's national team job? Would you take it at some point? And at that point, obviously, he was in the midst of such a great week. And he's like, no, that would be way down the line. I want to prove myself here in Europe. I'm obviously want to be in the thick of this with Leeds for many, many years. And I wonder, now that this has happened, if that thinking changes. That, because we've talked about it before, boys, where to coach the U.S. men's national team in a World Cup that you're hosting, not to say that managing the U.S. at any point in a World Cup is special, but to do it in the World Cup that you're hosting, I think takes it to another level. And I think Jesse's probably pretty primed to make that happen. Now, people are going to be like, oh, he's a system guy, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to work. Listen, Gareth Southgate wasn't a great club manager.
Yeah, but Jimmy, we all agreed that you cannot hire a coach, though, until you hire the other roles.
I get that. I agree with it. But this feels like a bit of, I don't know, coincidence, a fortuitous opportunity to be like, all right, because Jesse, you bring him in, and I think people universally like the guy. Like, he's not going to go in there and boss people around. I think he's there to compromise and work and figure out ways so that we can get the best out of everybody. That's the MO that I associate with Jesse Marsch. But I agree with you. Yes, we should hire those other positions. But I wonder now if Jesse's perspective changes. And I just want to reference Gareth Southgate because he hadn't been the best club manager. He takes over the national team for England. People are like, but then they get to a World Cup semifinal. They get to the Euro final. And a little unfortunate not to get past France in this past World Cup. They lost. Sure. Okay. But I think he's done a lot with that program when nobody ever predicted that he would be the most successful manager in English history.
Yeah.
And here we are. So I don't know. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, I would say, if anything, from this Leeds experience, I think more Americans have changed their opinion on Jesse Marsch being the national team coach, because during World Cup qualifying, everyone was like, Jesse Marsch, through the ups and downs, even right after the World Cup. I think this poor run of form, because then now you're taking his experience coach managing at RB Leipzig, managing at Leeds, and you're taking all that in, and you're saying, oh, maybe we're not so for Jesse Marsch taking over the U.S. men's national team job, because yes, he's been in those positions and he's managed in Europe, and that's great and all, but he hasn't had success on the bigger stage. I mean, he did at Salzburg, but that's the top team and a much smaller league. But as soon as he went to the Bundesliga, as soon as he went to the English Premier League, it wasn't easy. And holding those positions are never going to be easy.
Yeah, those are two really hard jobs.
He did not take it and run. He did not, I think, inspire confidence to say, that's the manager we want for the U.S. men's national team, especially with the style of play. Forget the results on top of that. The style of play. Do you just want the U.S. men's national team just to aggressively press? Like, is that the philosophy and the style?
Isn't that what Greg was doing? The guy should be used to it.
Right. But is that and no one was happy with that?
I get that.
So that's the whole point. How do you want more of what you didn't want?
Subconsciously, they were just unhappy with the fact that, hey, when plan A isn't working and we're pressing and it's not working, what's our plan B? And are we comfortable with transitioning to that plan B?
I will say, though, three players have gone to play under Jesse Marsch, though. So that's got to say something about at least how they regard him. Or is it dough? Is it the cake? Is it the dough? Someone's like, Leeds, I got you. I got that 30 mil for you.
Bob Bradley's managing Leeds United, and he had just selected Bornstein over you, and then he comes calling and says, here's 30 million for a transfer fee, and here's 10 times
Heath
more.
Is going, Chuck.
Are you going to say no?
Of course I'm going, but like, what does Bornstein have to do with this conversation?
I'm just saying.
Why can't it just be another left
guys
back?
are always going to be late from here on out.
My point is, even if you didn't like a manager,
no, you're right.
You're still going
That's
to
fair.
the Premier League, and you're still going to take that massive contract, and you're thinking, hey, maybe maybe he sees me in a different light now, or maybe he respects me more, or likes my game a little bit more. So my point is, just because he's had certain American players, that should not give him a little bit more of an advantage to coach the U.S. men's national team, especially if you're seeing Brent Aronson, who's gone, did well, and then fell off a cliff and hasn't been built back up, right? He's struggled. Tyler Adams, I think wherever he played, he was going to excel. He's just that kind of player. As long as he stayed healthy, he's just phenomenal. He just has to develop, I think, a manager that would really help his game is Pep Guardiola, because of tactics and the ability to have to play out of midfield. I think he would really excel under a manager like Pep Guardiola. But other than that, I mean, for me, is he the best American manager candidate out there? You would say yes, just based on
his experience,
and recent experience, right? But in terms of who's the best manager, I would still say if you can get a Jose Mourinho, you get a Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
I mean, right now he's 3 points out of second place in the Serie A. He's in a Champions League spot with Roma, and Roma haven't really invested all that much for him to win Serie A and to win Champions League, which we've seen with other clubs he's managed. So if you can get a Jose Mourinho for this group, you go and get Jose, because there won't be any more BS stories coming out of that camp. There's
going to be plenty of conversation about this moving forward, for sure, especially about Mourinho, and I'm excited about that if it's a real possibility. Heath, I'm going to give you final thoughts before you have to leave. Me and Charlie will close the show. You got like some big boy meetings you have to get into.
No, I mistimed the East Coast time zones, and I set my train up, and it's so stupid. It's just so stupid.
I tried to set you up like you're going to go do something cool. You didn't have to say that you were just going to be on a train.
No, it's just so stupid.
I tried to set you up.
Horrible timing.
Okay,
my final thoughts are...
before you get there, though, I want to say that if I believe that if Tyler Adams didn't play for Leeds, Weston McKennie wouldn't have come. So as much as we talk about maybe it was Jesse Marsch, I think it was more Tyler Adams.
Yeah, Charlie made a fair point too, which is like big transfer, big wages, all those things. You're not going to say
all right,
no,
final thoughts,
especially knowing you have an advantage.
And where are you training to, by the way?
DC.
Okay.
Picking the sites. It's really nice.
Picking the sites. Yeah, go see the foundation up there for a little bit, or down there. My final thought is again, like Charlie said, if we can get a big manager, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is 2026, and Mourinho could create a narrative, as an example, to get to the team to even the quarterfinals and say, look what I did with this team. I moved them forward and blah, blah, create this positive narrative that's sort of like, look what I had to work with. Look at how raw material this was. And I've shaped this into this as like a going forward thing, and take big swings and chances and create some organization and accountability. And, maybe we do need somebody with that level of ego to take us forward. So that's my final thoughts on this.